All right. Hi, everyone. We're back again for episode 3. So, again, my name is Alex. I'm the current DSC lead for my university, which is University of Technology Petronas. So, joining me today, we have 2 guests. Another co host and 1 guest to be exact. So, we have Ashraf. Can you introduce
Hi,
yourself?
hi
Okay.
guys, Ashraf, co-host.
All right. So, with us today, we have like a special guest. His name is very cool, according to all of my teammates. So
Yeah,
we have Mr. Shad. So Shad, can you introduce yourself a bit?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me, Alex. Ashraf. Really excited for this podcast, kind of a live podcast. I was asking both of this gentlemen earlier. Most of the podcasts I've joined, and it's usually a recording session.
Mhm.
This one is a live one, so very interesting. But yeah, so a little bit about me. I'm the community manager. I'm the regional lead for the Developer Student Clubs program across Southeast Asia that's covering Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia, and of course Pakistan as well. So those are the regions that we cover where we have launched the Developer Student Clubs, within Southeast Asia and South Asia areas. Aside from that, basically Developer Student Clubs has been, as a program for students for 3-4 years now, where it initially launched in India, then Indonesia, and then of course out of that is Southeast Asia and the world. So it's very interesting how this program has already kind of scaled. But a little bit more about me. So I'm part of the developer relations team at Google. That's a specific team that covers the developer student clubs, the Google developer groups, the Google Developer Experts program. So I think some of you are familiar of this. Programs. These are all community programs that Google, connect with different people who have been contributing and helping the community and building their skills and upskilling themselves. And I would say I'm one of those people that who is very passionate about learning and development in this space and helping students like you guys really excel and become successful in your future careers as well. And making this platform, the developer student clubs, as one of the platforms for you to support those skill development that you have in your university as well. And of course, I'm currently based in Manila, Philippines, and this is basically my home base right now. And but I would always say, like, I love Southeast Asia a lot.
Mhm.
I've been in different countries already across Southeast Asia. Visited several cities as well. Traveled in even Kuala Lumpur several times, like just for fun and vacation. And we actually had our summit, DSC summit, there in Malaysia as well. 2 years ago. Of course, if there's no pandemic, it could have happened again there. Sadly, we live in a world with so much uncertainties at the moment. We can't really go out or go around. But yeah, Philippines. So basically, I'm here. It's also like the Metro Manila is also like a concrete jungle. We're still bustling city with all these noises and I guess pollution. I guess.
yeah,
Yeah, and basically, I'm a little bit more about me. I'm married. I have a less than a year baby, very small baby, and still trying to figure out how this dad stuff works. So good thing I basically changed significantly from a dad bod, now like a semi dad bod as well. So that's still something I'm working in progress. And pretty much that's a lot about me there. And yeah, and I'm very excited to be joining this podcast with all of you.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. Regarding DSC, we kind of already had a podcast. Our first podcast was about DSC. So like
Cool.
we talk about like how we founded it, what is it about, what we're trying to do, and all that kind of stuff, right? So like
Yeah.
since you're here, of course, like this podcast will be mainly like focused on you, lah, right? So like you mentioned earlier that actually that your job was to actually like oversee and manage DSCs all around the Southeast Asia region, I would say, right? So like can you kind of like bring us through like what is your actually like your role, like your job scope, like what is a every day in the life of you, like what is the day from you to wake up for you for
Day in
when
the
you
life
wake
of
up until day in the life of Shad.
I like that. I like that. Yeah. So basically, what I highly do is mostly meet with a lot of stakeholders internally, who runs the global programs of the developer student clubs. That means, since it's a global program, we work together with a lot of key people. Like Erica and Drew, who are based in the US. So I do have some very late night calls and sometimes early morning calls just to meet with them. In terms of what we want to achieve in the next quarter, or what do we want to do in the next month or this month. In terms of activities or things that we want to push across the developer student clubs across the region. It's basically we are creating different activities and plans, and programs, specifically what we do want to launch in upcoming months. So I'll give a little bit of an example. So the skills level up program that we recently launched is a series of career success talks. So it's a series of events that we host every weekend, and in order for us to achieve that, we had to kind of prepare this X number of speakers, coordinating with partners who wants to support and be which channels we want to showcase this. So in order for us to to make it possible to execute such event, we have to coordinate with several other people internally, and bringing people who might be interested to to showcase some of their experiences. And again, this is really mainly focus on partnerships, communication, project building, and launching it, executing within our developer student clubs, uh, you know uh, clubs as well, and chapters across the region. So other than that, we meet with other stakeholders. So like what are the interests coming from Android team, what are the people are talking about right now, how do we launch a cloud study jams in, for example, in Malaysia. And of course a day-to-day meeting with other people who might have uh, interest in the scale and the growth of developer student clubs in Southeast Asia as well. So pretty much a lot of this meeting happen, initial touch points, then planning, strategizing, and then of course building the documents, and planning, and of course executing it with people who are decision makers to approve and help us, deliver it across the region. And at the same time, I meet with a lot of students. That's another factor on my day to day. I set office hours with developer student club leads across the region. The most frequent one I meet would be the ones in the Philippines, in Singapore, and as well as in Pakistan. So I receive some of those calls with them and meet with them, and frequently. But pretty much anyone who might want to connect and learn more, and probably get a little bit of what I can input in their projects. So that's something that I'm also happy to help with our leads across the region as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm pretty sure I have other things aside from meeting and planning and doing this kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm really enjoying the time when I get to learn new stuff as well, with what's going on in different countries. It's very interesting to see how decisions are made from from the students' point of view, and what are the things that are actually happening in their university level, that allows us to kind of understand, oh, this situation happens, and what are the things that we can do in the future to prevent such issues as well. So yeah, so that's one of the things that I do, as a DSC program lead.
I see. I mean, your job as basically revolves around like talking to people and then like managing events, right?
Yeah, so basically it's a program manager role across the region, and
Mm,
it requires a lot of communication and building relationships, building partnerships, to make it possible to bridge the gap there,
mm,
deliver it across the communities, the chapters that we have.
I see. So you used to do this in the office, right? Like I'm sure you have like a Google has like an office for you, right? So like, is it like, would you say like because of the COVID-19 or the virus or everything, like everything is different, or is it like largely the same, or you're just doing the same thing instead of in an office, you're at home?
That's a good, interesting question. Actually, so because of the pandemic, I would say there's a lot of things that change. On what I have imagined, my year previously would be visiting these universities and hosting events there. So I noticed there's that huge impact whenever an external person coming in into a university and deliver a keynote or a discussion or a fireside chat, or it could be a panel discussion in university, because the factor could be wider. I mean, the reach of students interested to listen and involve, it's higher when it's done in a university setting. And I have imagined I could have done, I could have visited a lot more universities in 2020. That was actually in my pipeline. Before the pandemic, I was looking at visiting Vietnam and Malaysia around February and March last year. And basically that was like around this time. This is where I usually go to universities and do events. Sadly, it didn't happen, and lots of plans have been canceled as well out of the COVID-19. And basically, Google's even had a lot of freeze on the operation side, as well as internally, and and the travel ban that has been in place as well. Just imagine, probably 80 to 90% of Google population, workers, never went to the office more than a year now. Around this time, I think around March 14, 15, the Philippine lockdown. And I was still at the office around 13th, March 13th. I was the office. I left some stuff in my, I don't know, in my office desk there. And
Oh
I never
no,
even, I don't know, I could have some food over my cabinet, right? Like that I
yeah.
left there. I
You go
never
back and it's just
retrieved it.
cockroaches.
I, well, I don't think there will be cockroaches there, but I'm like that point. I never even seen my desk for a long time, and I have some
Mm,
books there that I want to can retrieve, but I don't know how. Yeah, and I'd say, uh, yeah, I would say the office did kind of change a little bit, in terms of how we access it. Now everything seems online. It felt different now. It's like this is the new normal.
Mm-hmm.
Like going to office is kind of off now. Like, you get
mm,
it? Like, the
Yeah.
thought of going to office is making me think of how much time I spent on traveling going there, and
yeah,
it's like too wasteful of my time. I'd rather just stay at home.
yeah.
Would
The
you
thought the
say
thought of
it's
going to school is the same for us, yeah. As well.
yeah,
Yeah.
going to class? Would you say
Yeah.
it's more productive to be online now?
Well, I would say it saves me time rather than waking up like an hour or 2 hours before just to get to the office. Saves me, it gives me additional time to sleep and rest.
Yeah.
And the access to bed, rather than if you're in the office, you just stay in the in the
Mhm.
chair. I have a bed. I don't know. I don't know about you, but it's a safe comfort space, especially when you have a long break time.
Mhm.
Taking some quick naps, especially if you're a new dad, or if, both of you gonna be new
Yeah.
dad, you find that bed really useful.
So,
So
I was wondering about the nature of your job because actually I have like two questions. The first is you're covering Southeast Asia and Pakistan. That's correct, right?
right,
Why is suddenly Pakistan? Like it seems like it's Asia,
far.
but then it's far.
Cool. That's a good question. So basically, yeah, if you look at the world map and how I would say Asia Pacific is categorized as like the entire Asia, which includes India, Pakistan, and all the South Asia. So that means Pakistan, India, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bangladesh, and basically that area. And then the Southeast Asia is basically Malaysia, Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia, and Thailand, and other countries as well, like Laos and Cambodia. So those are basically Southeast Asia. And if you call out Asia Pacific, Pacific can include Australia, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, and as well as Korea, Taiwan, China, and Taiwan. I think I mentioned already, in Macau as well. So there's a lot of countries, and if you're in a corporation, mostly any corporation will call APAC as one region. But just to share, because of the geographic factors, where India is actually really really big market, it was kind of separate. It was separated, and we thinking like it could be in an ideal world, it could be India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. But if you are aware of the historical background of how these countries were made,
Yeah.
you that's not possible.
Yeah.
And that's a very cultural thing, and very
I see.
very strong background there.
Mhm.
And of course, we're thinking, should Pakistan go to Middle East? But it's not really Middle East region already. So of course, the nearest people, I mean, I would say region that would adopt Pakistan would be Southeast Asia, and we
Oh,
are the friendliest
they're very nice.
region. We're the friendly nice
Yeah.
region in the world. So we, of course, we open arms any
Mhm.
any teams. But just to realize this, give you a little bit more context in terms of why Pakistan is very important. It's a 200 million country, million plus country, and among countries across Asia Pacific, Pakistan has one of the highest interest in terms of technology. The freelancer market there is
Oh,
massive. They have a huge uh, internet use case there as well. A lot of people are in technology sector, so that means it has been a massive growth there in just in the last 5 years.
mm,
One of the cool factors as well is startups in Pakistan is just booming. They got funding, Series ABC, and the reason for that is because of the backbone coming from the US. And also, like, a lot of investors are interested in supporting local startups as well there, which are very relevant in their region. The main reason, the I would say, they have been kind of secluded and isolated for a while, but I would say because of that, they were able to homegrown a lot of these startups
mhm,
that now gets international funding, and
yeah.
people trust more products that are coming from them, like coming from their own country, because of that cultural thing as well.
Mm,
And that's bringing in a lot of money for their country, and a lot of transformation, digital transformation for Pakistan. And allowing developer student clubs like this program, launching them as early as a college student, involving them in learning and upskilling themselves, will surely prepare them for the future, especially when the industry is in a high demand face right now. And I would say it would be the same case as well, just to add in with, Indonesia, and, other countries in Southeast Asia as well in specific. Like, Indonesia has been a massive country in terms of startups. If you look at Southeast Asia, the unicorns in Indonesia were like probably five, six now, and there's not a country in Southeast Asia with such number of unicorns yet. And unicorns basically is a $1 billion company. They have that valuation. So and how they compute the valuation basically is the users x number of the cost of usage. So they have that kind of value created in terms of that as well. And it's amazing if you look at that industry, how now more and more people are interested in going to tech, and more people are going towards this phase of industry, and how this industry is so fast changing and the demand for skills are very high. So that's why having this kind of platform to support the next generation of startup leaders or entrepreneurs, right? And also tech industry in the future. So as early as now, there should be a way for them to be ready. And I think that's where DSC position itself as well.
Yeah.
As a relevant program.
Coming from a person who kind of grew up in Pakistan, I can say that like that place is the one thing that's lacking in Pakistan was always opportunity, but I always knew
Mhm,
the people there always had the potential. And
mhm.
after when I left Pakistan and I came back to Malaysia after staying there, suddenly that was when the technology boom happened, like
Right.
after '09. And when I came back, and all my friends there told me like things changed when I left. So I was like, maybe it was me. I'm not sure, but yeah, but I think like the DSC definitely is one of those opportunities that would be great for the
Yeah,
Pakistani people. Yeah.
indeed.
Well, talking back about DSC, right? Are you actually like the first program manager for like DSC, like the first community? Are you in the first batch, or is it like, or are you not?
That's a good question. I would say I was in the not really in the pilot one, but in the pilot as for growth. That means
Mm-hmm.
the pilot program started in India. It was run by a completely different person, and then it was taken over by Erica. Erica basically piloted to test it in Indonesia, and then right after that they said let's do it globally, and they need key people to do it. So that's when I came in. So
Mm.
a little bit of background about me. I used to work in a startup. I if I trying to recall myself, I actually never worked in a corporate before. Everything, my background was really in a startup environment. And one of the cool things I really learned from those experiences is how to growth hack a lot of things. Talking about growth, it really involves a lot of not only using marketing as a channel, so basically really marketing, right? But also really using technology to leverage it in a way on a fast growth. Companies around, if you search a little bit more about growth hacking, you'll learn how Dropbox basically turned the world in just 24 hours, basically in just a few days they became the biggest cloud storage company in the world. And that basically it was a result of a growth hack. And one of the factors that a lot of people are now using these strategies in their companies is because it's something relevant. How you can validate your idea as fast as you can. Like how can you validate it? How can you test that this is a market fit, and how you can get to the phase that you start earning as well, and or pivot, right? You pivot in your idea in a different way to earn as well. So again, it's there's a lot of benefit, because of that experience, where I was also launching our startup in different developing countries in Africa, in Southeast Asia. as well as in India. So I was doing that kind of things. And when I was approached if I'd be interested to join the DevRel team, to work on this new program, a pilot program across Southeast Asia, and basically across the globe, because it was just a goal. They tried it. They wanted to try it in Indonesia, in India, and then Indonesia, and then they want to do it in the world. So um, yeah, so that's where I came in and launched it in Southeast Asia. And to give you a little bit of the challenges launching a program is I don't know anyone from Malaysia. Could be I don't know anybody from Vietnam. I don't know anyone from Thailand. The language barrier is huge as well. Expanding it in Indonesia is like almost starting from zero, and Pakistan as well. Like, who am I gonna talk to in Pakistan? It's a very far, place. Like, I haven't, I don't have enough network to kind of to figure things out on launching it. But that's actually a very good question. Like, you don't know. How do I know then? Like, you change your narrative in a sense. Like, I changed my mindset and then my narrative, and how should I figure this out? Like, what are the things that I need to build in order to reach to these universities across this country that I need. So one of the things is like I look into my contacts. What are the networks I know? I built connection inwards, within Google, who are the people who are stakes at these countries, and building relationship with them, and learning what are the factors that we can grow in these countries. Who are the people that I need to talk to frequently to build connections within the university level, in the community level, so, and grow the community, expand it. So that's basically part of a growth hacker, and figuring things out and how you would scale things as well, yeah, in that sense. So yeah, basically that's one of the main factors for DSC, running DSC as well.
I see. Ashraf, do you have anything you wanna ask Mr. Shad?
Cool.
Um, so I actually, when we met for the first time, I actually asked this question, but I think it was also suited to ask now. I'm wondering, um, going back to your start, I'm trying to kind of see how do we like manufacture what happened, which is the love for technology in the university, because in our university right now in UTP, um, I'm not going to say that there's no interest, but there could be more interest for technology and more hunger to learn about the latest kind of technology. And so I'm wondering, what got you started, like what got you into technology in the first place?
Hmm.
All these web development and growth hacking and so on.
Cool. It's a very good question. Uh, yeah, I can probably share a little bit of my story, and how I started when I was a student, and perhaps like even when I was very young boy. So I was a very curious boy. My mom would always scold me because we had our first computer when I was about 7 or 6 years old. It was a gift from my aunt coming from US. So basically Windows 95 with I don't know, it was a 8 or 32 MB ROM. I don't know, guys, it's really ridiculous if to think about it. Like,
Yeah.
God, how old is Shad, right? Like, okay. Not old. If you think about it, I was talking about the uh how technology has basically evolved in the
Mhm.
couple of years. Like every 2 years, the number of you know and I mean the processor rate has increased significantly in just a couple of years. And um and going back to my story, basically, as a very young boy, I started to figure out this, this computer, this thing,
Mhm.
big thing. We had this really big case, I guess, computer, which is around Pentium 1 or guess. I totally forgot now. But we had this really big CD, you can put CD before
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the diskette, and
Mhm.
all of these are really cool stuff
Yeah.
before, I guess. And computer shop back then, they have, they have this diskettes to for you to install or transfer files. So there's no USB back then.
Yeah.
Like very strange when that thing arrived. Actually, it was a very interesting time. And as early as I was in my primary school, basically in my grade school, I started really exploring how this computer thing works. And I learned about HTML. No, not yet. I was learning Microsoft Word. I was learning Microsoft PowerPoint. And PowerPoint was like a very amazing tool in my time, where you
Mm-hmm.
can create actions, right? Like on this navigation bar, you can right click it, and then you can add action where which page it goes, which with where it basically a navigation system within PowerPoint. And I was so fascinated with that tool, where you can create and customize actions according to your liking. Like you have the
Mm.
ability to command and do things on that PowerPoint. And I was like, like amazing thing, yeah, magic. And of course, a few after a couple of months, I started exploring Microsoft other tools. It has Microsoft Access, which is basically a database, right? I don't know exactly how that works, but when I started figuring it out, that it is actually a database, I can put in something
Mhm.
in here. I was so fascinated. I think I was around 9, 10 years old. I know I
Wow.
started a little bit too
Wow.
young.
Wow.
Uh, and I started learning coding, through Microsoft front page. I would say Microsoft has helped me so much when
Yeah.
I was young. No, I'll give credit to them for for the tools that they have created. These are I don't know. These are Microsoft 98 version, bro.
Mhm.
These are granddad's tools, I would say. And as I was exploring this kind of tools, I learned HTML. And they have this plugin called Microsoft Front Page plugin, which exists to a lot of web servers during that time, where once you upload your project, you can have form submission, submitted, and then it saves on a database on
Mhm.
Microsoft Front Page. And I was just mind blown. Think about it. I was
Yeah.
able to save a form. I was able to create a form. That
Yeah.
was, I don't know, 2004, 3, I guess, around the time. It's pretty
Oh.
ancient time.
Yeah.
During the
Nowadays
time, there
it's
was
just
still
like
no
very
Facebook.
easy.
Think
Yeah.
about it. No Facebook. There was a social network called Friendster that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you heard about it, but it's pretty cool. Everybody loved that platform. And during the time, I was so fascinated with the internet. And we had a dial-up network, and
Mm.
which my dad would usually buy this dial-up card, and
Mhm.
then we enter it, and then we connected to the internet with maximum speed of 5 kbps. That was an awesome speed.
Man.
That was the best
Mhm.
speed I could get. And loading a photo, downloading photo or something, it was really crazy. During that time, the most popular photo ever posted was the Janet Jackson thing
Mhm.
during that
Yeah.
time. So it
I
was
think I know
a
what you're
very
referring
popular one. And if you guys
to.
knew about the history of YouTube, basically the
Yeah.
founder of YouTube created YouTube because of the Janet Jackson thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just search it up, and you'll be fascinated about why he created it. Because people has been searching about Janet Jackson.
So props
So
to Janet
go
Hassan.
yeah, I get technology innovation out of it. And going back to my story, I was really fascinated with how internet works. I started learning HTML, and then a few years after that, there was this internet thing called Ajax, which basically now you can
Mm.
have web page load by itself, doesn't have to move around, and doesn't have to go to another page and load the entire page. It's somehow like a preloading way for you to get to the next page as well. And it was fascinating. And out of that, I learned JavaScript, I learned PHP, and about and I think around 12, 13, I created my own social network as well. It was not a popular
Wow.
one, but it was a website for Filipino teenagers. So I was a very young teenager boy, and did a PHP site, very simple social media where people can basically post, anything they want, they speak their mind out. And it was the dawn of internet. I was naive as well of web server, where web server can actually fail, and you have to pay for it to maintain it. And during the time, I only do it on free hosting sites, or cheap web hosting sites that are all not reliable. During the time, there's no cloud thing. There's no cloud thing yet, and scalability was a major issue for a lot of companies. Uh, so just to make my long story short, I started very very young with learning all of these technologies. And while I was discovering, learning, doing this stuff, I started it started to basically get money out of it. People are asking me how to build website, how do you create designs. I learned Photoshop after that as well, and and other things, and started earning money because of the skills that I learned at an early age. And I went to university, but before I went to university, I was in this kind of a crossroad where I was also very interested in airplanes and aircraft and a lot of flying thing. So instead of going to university for a computer course, I went to a flying school to pursue my dream to also become a pilot. And I
Oh,
took a year.
okay.
It was a year. And during that year, I felt really bad about it, just to share with you, because I wasn't so sure that I wanna be a driver of people getting to one place to another all throughout my life. It's just like it came a realization that it seems like I'm not gonna be doing a lot of things in this field, and it was a
Mm.
major question mark for me. In a year of flying school, I had a ground training, I had a flight test, and all this kind of things, simulation. But basically, I stopped. I told my mom I don't want to do it anymore, and I want to do something else. And that's when I decided to go back to the university, and I had a scholarship there, where I allowed me to enroll into a computer science degree. And I was in a computer science degree. I realized that there's this massive thing that you can create out of computers. Still, there's still so much things that you can do in the technology field or technology sector that you can still create. And I was super interested. I became so interested with how computer science field, or basically how the world can be shaped by technology. During that time, it's pretty much early stage. Facebook just started, right? Like,
Mm.
it was pretty much an early stage for Facebook. And people are very interested and very passionate about technology that time. But I started involving myself with a lot of these programs and exchange programs that kind of involved me to other people, and a lot of meeting new people in the student leaders space, and allowed me to also connect with some uh, people who are working in tech. But not until I met a friend who told me about this program called Google Student Ambassador Program. It was a program designed for students who excel in technology or are interested in technology and become a liaison in the university to connect Google with. And I think it would be similar to what Alex is doing right now, but it
Yeah.
was very interesting. I know Google. I've been using google.com in my entire life, but I don't know about other things that Google do. Like, as
Mhm.
far as I know, Google is just a search engine.
Yeah.
I never thought that they do other things, right?
Mhm.
And that was an eye opener for me. That I realized that I was just at a very, at the very bottom of how I thought of about technology, of how technology is where it is at the time. And when I joined Google, then I got accepted into the program. I realized that, my gosh, Google has a lot of this technology that they've been open sourced, and and you can use this to try
Mhm.
it out and see for yourself on how you can use it to probably impact or create projects out of it as well. And yeah, and by that time I was really really interested in Google technologies, and exploring what are the things that they can offer, what are the things that they can build. And I started doing events. I actually started doing student sessions about during the time, the technology that we covered. There was app engine. It was not a Google Cloud yet. It was an app engine. We had there were several APIs there, Maps API, Google Maps as well. The very early stage of Google, where it was still, very actively on its technology and how you can use it. During that time, Google Photos was called Picasso, and there were different names as well. And there are a lot of other projects that Google had during those times as well. And it just opened my mind to the world of internet, the world of startups, where I started joining this thing called Startup Weekend, where you can pitch your idea, and you can create the project in just 48 hours and then share it. So
Mhm.
all in all, I would say a lot of this exposure and very intentional exposure to these programs that allowed me to be involved in, to be part of, to be inclusive. That's when also I joined GDG programs and events that they were hosting, and it's just opened my mind about technology as a whole, and
Mhm.
how these people became how these people, like the Google people, influence people in using this technology and changing the world. It was the statement that I've been carrying for the last I guess 7-8 years, using technology to build project that can impact and change the world. And it was just a dream for me, like one day building a project, building a program, or building something that people would use and love, and that also kind of change their life and change the world eventually. And through that program experience, when I was involved with the community, I moved to a new city where I got involved in GDG as well. I
Mhm.
hosted events there. I connected people. I built partnership. I grew the community, created an impact in that city's tech ecosystem. And eventually that's where I got the opportunity to join the startup where I was working at, and build the company and launch it across different countries, developing countries. That's when Google reached out, and if I'd be interested to be part of this DevRel team, which I was very very interested in.
Mhm.
And yeah, and that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
At Google.
So.
And I think once you realize, just to summarize a little bit about my story, once you realize the potential of technology, and if your mindset changes, that using technology, building and creating products or solutions, and using it to change people's lives and make it usable and useful for them, accessible and useful for them, and then eventually you can change your life and change the world. And
Mm.
that's pretty much how technology affected my personal life, how I learned so much and discovered more and explored more because of that knowledge and because of that understanding. Change of mindset where led me to where I am right now.
I see.
I've never
Well,
felt so motivated to do coding
yeah, that
than right
was
now.
very like motivating.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're near the end of our podcast. So in the end, we will have a Q&A session. So anyone who's listening to this or watching this, you have any questions, you can start leaving them right now. But while we're waiting for the questions, we have like one more question for Shad. I mean, this question will be the question that every university student is interested in. So like as a student, right? For example, like me, I'm studying tech, right? How can I get into Google? Like, will DSC actually help? Like, what are the requirements that like? Is there any like process? Is there any steps? Or can a fresh graduate actually apply to Google? Or how does it work actually?
Cool. Yeah, that's a very good question. So basically, if you listen on my story, you'll probably find it, the entire factor of how I got to Google and how I involved myself to the community programs that Google has would allow me to network. So that was the greatest factor. Like, what are the, just to probably summarize a little bit, what are the factors that allowed me to get to Google or something like that? Like, how can a student like you guys, dream to also work for Google in, the later time? So there are a lot of factors. Number one is, how you involve yourself in understanding how the tech and the business sectors work right now. Number two is you have to realize that Google is a multinational company already. That means aside from the developer programs that or the tech areas like what I am part of, there's a different side of Google, which is the company itself. Like you have to realize that this is a still a company with a business, critical work day to day, and how they manage this relationship with a lot of companies and do services for them. So it's basically imagine any businesses that will do right now, and what are the skills, understand what are the skills and key skills that are required for you to compete in those areas that they need, and experiences that you can provide value for. And I think it's one of the factors that you have to kind of realize. And we can backtrack a little bit on my personal experience. Is I was working in a startup, so that means I was focused highly on growth. And startups should, it's basically startup, it's you have to start from ground up, from zero to somewhere. And I have worked with I have personal experience working in a startup where I had to launch it in different countries. So that was kind of similar value where I was needed at. And at the same time, experience in building communities and building in values in tech areas, yeah, understanding of how developer ecosystem works, and tech ecosystem works, from developers to entrepreneurs to startups to corporations, and how this cycle works. And of course, and a lot of that additional factors. So basically, it always depends on the value that you can provide for that role or the company as well. So I'll give you another example. There in Google, there are a lot of other things that you can do. If you are strong in your partnerships, you can become a partnership person. That means there are jobs specific for that reason as well. And again, it always focus on the value that you can provide for that role. And what are the impact, what are the things that you believe that you can create an impact inward within the company and also externally, like your contribution to the world. And to share probably the highest tips when looking for a job at Google, is you have to have these four critical things to be suited in Google. Number one is having the general cognitive ability. That means you have the ability to be critical in understanding the question and answering it in a clear and kind of structured manner. When you are being asked, how do you respond to it? How would you solve that kind of problem that exists? So these are very high. This will usually be achieved by practice, like really practicing your framework. How would you respond to a question? In each question, there will be different frameworks. There will be different process on how to answer questions, and it will always goes back to how you solve problems, because it will always be about problem solving. Second is role related knowledge. This is the one that I was mentioning about the value that you can provide for that role. What is the role related knowledge that you have that you are a good fit for this specific role? And of course, it's very, very important. Usually, this is one of the biggest factor in understanding how would you do your job. How would you do if you're given in this position? What will you do? And those are very common questions in any companies that being asked. And for sure, this will be asked if you're looking for a job or being interviewed at Google as well. Number three is googliness. Googliness is basically a term for how are you trying to how are you responding, how do you respond towards ambiguity. Like there's a lot of I mentioned earlier, like there are so many things that I don't know, but how do you reframe your mindset to respond to this kind of questions? Like it starts probably like I figure out, I build the partnership, I'll talk to people, I'll validate this kind of solutions. And these are usually how you respond in this case, in becoming googly as well. And in any company, it's actually there's that term as well that they use, but it could be a different term as well. But again, it's usually how do you respond to ambiguity? How do you how is your mindset towards problem and looking for solution? And of course, last one is leadership. A lot of factors, in terms of leadership, is like how are you setting an example, for could be the next generation. How are you dealing with what are the things that you have done that impacted other people? This could be mentorship. This could be sharing, helping a friend, or it could be being a in your projects, like how are you setting the bar and making a standard that you're not mediocre in creating this kind of project, but rather you set a high goal and create that kind of standard, that creates quality and beauty and make a beautiful solution out of it. So those are major factors when really involving yourself or really looking forward to have a job at Google. Don't be discouraged, but because there are a lot of other jobs at Google that doesn't have, you don't have to have perfect scores at everything. You just need to be able to understand those factors, like how are you going to be problem solving. For example, if you're a software engineer, that would be also different. If you're going to be a business development person, that's also different. So you have to find which thing you are very passionate about, and and master it and go through that journey in order for you to be ready. Another way for you is like talk to people, talk to other people who have worked at these big companies, and
Yeah.
find mentors that can help you throughout the way. So yeah,
Well,
I that's a lot of questions, but I mean
yeah.
answer, but yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much that's how it is.
Well, all right. So we have some questions. Actually, I myself actually already applied to YouTube, but it's in Tokyo,
Mm.
so we'll see what happens. So we have some questions here. So can you please highlight the question? All right, the first one by Mr. Harinash. I'm sorry if I butchered your name. So, sir, to join Google, is programming even more important than creativity of able to innovate? Because I learned that nowadays that these big company focus on people that have the ability to, I assume it means solve current problems.
Mm.
What do you think, Shad?
That's a very interesting question. I would say it depends upon the role. I think the role related factor is very important. Role related knowledge. That means if it's a programming, it's a software engineering role, anything with an engineer word at Google career site, it requires a programming test. What are the things that you need to do in programming sites? Basically leetcode.com. So these are company websites where you can learn problem solving, programming problem solving. So like the recursions, the how would you, what are the big O notation, time, space, factor there as well. So these are some of the things that you need to kind of understand in order for you to to be able to achieve that. But creativity is also as important as that. Creativity is how you do respond. What are the like simple things as like changing letters to A to B and things like that. That has a little bit of a creative factor. Is also important. So yeah, something to keep in mind for sure.
I see. All right. So can we have the next question? Okay, what would be the best experience or opportunity that Mr. Shad experienced being the community manager at Google by Mr. Ayman?
Very good question. For me, it's actually being able to talk to a lot of students and a lot of developers as well. Working for a developer relations team, it's basically getting feedback, learning from students. What are the, what are they are currently experiencing, and it allows to give me a little bit of a context, especially in a very diverse region as Southeast Asia, of what are the difference of the day-to-day case that they do, what are the challenges that they face, what are the issues and concern, what are the skills gap that needed to be solved in order to be industry ready. And these are problems and that exist right now, and that even DSE as a program, it's still kind of 100% solved. There's still a lot of gap there that needs to be improved, needs to be adjusted. How can we make sure that Alex gets a job or something like that? Yeah. So it's something that we have in mind as well. Like how can we make Alex or Ashraf be career industry ready? When they graduate, right after they graduate, they and probably of course you as well, Mudnor, Iman, making you involved in this program to be ready in the future as well. So yeah, talking to a lot of students, it allows me to get a lot of insight, and converting that as something that we can work on in the future as well.
I see. So
Cool.
for the third question by Optinia, who was your main mentor for technology throughout life?
Ah, this is a very good question. I would say google.com, but again, it might be very biased. But yeah, actually, it is, it is actually the curiosity of how technology companies have changed the world. Because if you look at, in the last 30, probably let's take at about 20 years, the last 21 years, what has changed? What is the most valuable companies in the world, right?
Yeah.
It's all tech. Did
Mhm.
the oil companies break think about that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Especially now.
Amazon.com basically started as a bookstore, then it shifted into a technology-based, online platform for everyone to sell stuff, and they keep using technology there. They
Mhm.
are, the owner is the richest guy in the world.
Mm.
Elon Musk started as a programmer in PayPal and basically spent nights and days programming PayPal, and out of that they sell PayPal, and look where he is now. He was the richest man for a couple of days,
Yeah.
last year. I mean,
Yeah.
he could be still the richest man if it could be depends on how stock market works.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But these are factors that you have to think about. Technology will always and will be still the biggest market and industry in the next 50 years. And
Mhm.
more and more things will innovate around that. It's no longer oil industry. Oil,
Mhm.
I look at oil right now as a industry that should be stopped, because right now climate change is worse, and we need to evolve, and we need to innovate in a lot of things. I know that's still a huge long term kind of idea, but that's where we're heading. That's
Mhm.
eventually how it should be. So my personal mentor, I've had several mentors. I've had tech mentors in when I where I was before. I have people who supported me. I had conversation with several tech folks, especially at Google, especially at different companies, startup companies in the Philippines, in Southeast Asia, in Singapore. And yeah, so they are also one of the factors that I would say that I can get, I can connect with and get this more information and clarity whenever I have question. And it's good. You have to find mentors to find clarity to questions that you don't know. Because if you don't know, we Google it. But if you
Yeah.
want to get more details, we find mentors to get something out of their experience. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's all for our question tonight. But basically you mentioned something that like you said if you don't know something you just Google it, right? Like the word Googling it is actually like became like the branding for like searching for something. Like you don't usually go search for it on internet. You just say, oh, we just Google it. So it's kind of like a branding and stuff like that, lah. Oh, we actually have one last question.
Mm.
Sorry, another question. It's fine. How to get in touch with all Google updates? As we know, there are a lot of extensions and apps from Google, and the numbers
Yeah.
keep increasing each year. Okay, it's time for you to promote Google.
Well, number one, I would say is there are a lot of YouTube channels. So you can search Google main YouTube channel there. So that's where you can find a lot of posts about it. Second is there is a Google developers YouTube channel as well. They post, weekly video updates of all Google tech developers technologies there. From Android, from TensorFlow, from Firebase, and a lot of other things there. You'll find it there. Flutter, and Google developers page. Again, YouTube is a source of a lot of updates. You can find videos right away if you're the video guy. But if you like those who are writings, you can also check out Google developer blogs. You just Google it, Google developer blogs. You'll go through there. You'll see you can subscribe in newsletter so you get updates every week as well. And the last one would be subscribing to Google developers on LinkedIn and Google as a whole and LinkedIn because they post a lot of opportunities there as well. That might be very interesting for you. So, few things I would say, like, for example, the DSC program or getting involved with DSC allows you to get connected to a lot of the activities that they are hosting throughout the year. They host several events, study jams, and tech sessions that, could bring in some people, like Googlers, tech experts, to speak at their events as well. So, getting involved yourself to this group will make you like superstar as well, and you get up to date right away with what's going on. So
Yes.
yeah,
Join DSC. Yeah. All right.
yeah,
I think that's all we have for time for tonight. So thank you again for coming and being the guest of our show, and thank you for everyone who asked the questions and watch our show. So yeah, do you have anything to add, Shad? Finally, like any final words?
yeah, sure. Yeah, so I would consider myself as an updated person in terms of technology. Yeah, so just to answer last one there, and the main reason for that is it's something to look forward to. Like if you think about this, how the world is changing and innovating, it's very interesting how things are changing around us and how it could change. The easiest way to do this is like what are the technology in the previous 10 years in 2010 or 2010 that isn't there before, which is there now. And from 2010 was pretty much the early stage of iPhone. And look at
Mm.
where is the iPhone now. It's like it
Yeah.
has three cameras and then it unlocks using your face.
Yeah.
And did someone really thought about that? Did Steve Jobs think about that when he launched it in 2009? Right? Like,
Probably not.
right? And think a lot of these factors. You can, you can look at Apple and how they innovated. You can look at, our devices, usage of our devices also changes, and probably the experiences that we have as a whole. And getting to updated with technology is actually a good, it's a good habit in a sense that you're not ignorant, you're not you're misinformed. 'Cause in a world where misinformation is everywhere, fake news is true, and it's hard to tell if it's real or not. And we have to continuously educate ourselves to understand this, because there's a lot of people who take advantage of this ignorance of technology.
Mhm.
Talk about the scam industry, online scam industry, which is about
Yeah.
$20 billion loosed in scams every year. How can we protect more people in this space? Like, there's so much things that need to be solved still, and you could solve it. You can find solution out of these problems that exist in the world today using technology, and you could be a $1 billion company as well out of that. There's so much potential. You just have to start with believing in yourself, believing that this solution is something that you can work on. Find people that can support you, help you and build you. And also, I think the last one is just do it. There's a word called grit, which means you persevere, you drive, you be passionate about this, and and think differently on how you would come up with it, rather than saying, oh, it's not my problem. You say it is our problem, we find solution and let's solve it. And it will totally change, changing our mindset changes people around you, and also changes the world eventually as well. So yeah, that's a little bit of a key takeaway there, but just to inspire all of you, to be honest, that you are in the right space. You are in a find ways to impactful in the tech space. We need
Mm.
more people to be there.
Yep. All right. I think that will be the end of our podcast today. Again, thank you for coming. So that will also be the last podcast for us, DSC UTP, for this semester. Maybe there'll be more next semester. We'll see what happens. Maybe there'll be
During spring
new
break.
activities. Yep. We'll see what happens. But
Awesome.
again, thank you for coming, Shad.
Thank you. Thank you for
And
having me. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Asha.
no problem.
Thank you,
And
Shad.
we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.